Hello and welcome to this TensorFlow tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a variables in TensorFlow. And as you know, creating a variables in TensorFlow is a fundamental task essential for defining weights and bias in your machine learning model. So TensorFlow variables are used to hold and update parameters, and the variables are mutable because their values can be changed during execution or during a computation process. So to create a variable in TensorFlow, we need to use the constructor tf.variable. So this tf.variable is a class in the TensorFlow, and this class has a constructor tf.variable which allows us to create a new variable in TensorFlow. So first import the TensorFlow framework or library in the current environment. Type import TensorFlow as tf and execute this shell to import the TensorFlow framework. Now, framework is imported. So there is a basic syntax that you need to follow to create a variable in TensorFlow. So here is specify variable name, and then to create a variable, you need to call the tf dot variable constructor, and it accepts many parameters, but here are three important parameters. So first is the initial value, and the second is the data type of that initial value, and the third is the name of the variable. So here this name and the d type is an optional parameter. If you do not specify, TensorFlow tries to infer the data type from the initial value or the whatever the value that you pass. If you pass integer value, TensorFlow infer it automatically. If you pass float value, TensorFlow infer it automatically. So let's create a variable. So to create a variable, you need to use this syntax. So let's say create a scalar variable. So a scalar var, and then tf dot call the variable constructor, and here I'm going to create a variable which is going to contain the value 15. And if you do not specify the data type, the TensorFlow is going to infer it automatically. Now execute this cell, and the variable is created successfully. To print the value of the variable, write here print, and then type here scalar var, and then execute this cell. And as you can see in the output, this is the variable, and as you can see the value of the variable is a 15, but you can also see the properties like a shape, d type of the variable, and you can individually access the properties of this variable, like you can type here scalar var, and then type here d type and execute this cell. You can see the data type of this variable is a tf dot int32, which represent the integer value. You can also access the name of this variable scalar var dot name and execute the cell. And as you can see, this is the default name variable 0, which is assigned by the TensorFlow automatically. If you here give a name of the variable, like you can specify here name equal to new variable and execute this cell. And when you execute this scalar var dot name, and now here you can see the variable name. You can also specify the d type manually. So type here d type equal to, and here type tf dot int 32 like this, and execute this cell, and we get the error. Why we get the error? Let's fix it. Perhaps you forgot comma. So here we need to specify comma. We need to separate the properties using comma. Now again execute this cell, and if you again execute this one, it shows the tf dot int32. So let's make it float. So to make it float, you need to type here float and then execute this cell. And when you execute this, is scalar var dot d type to check the data type of that variable. And now here you can see it is the float value. And now if you print the variable value, here you can see this is the float value 15.0. And in case of integer, it is only 15. So this is how you can create a variable in TensorFlow. Even you can create a vector. So let's create a vector. So type here vect var equal to tf dot variable and then provide the initial value, and the initial value is our vector. So type here 1, 2, 3 and 4, and this vector contains a 4 value. You can see here it is a basic Python list. So we pass the basic Python list to this tf dot variable constructor, and it creates a variable in TensorFlow. And you can specify the data type of this variable like a d type equal to tf dot float 32, and specify the unique name to this variable like a vector variable, and execute this, and it creates a new variable, vector variable. Let's access the value of the variable. So to access the value of the variable, you have a two method, dot value method, and you have another method which is called dot numpy method. So let's use both method. So first let's check with the value method. So type here a print and then specify the variable name vect var and then call the value method on it. So type here value and now execute this. So here you can see variable contains a list of values 1, 2, 3, 4, and its data type is a float 32 and shape is a 4. Now let's call the numpy method on this variable to check its current value. So type print vect var dot numpy and now execute this. So here it only shows the values of the variable 1, 2, 3, 4 in the list. And when you execute the value on this variable, it also shows the properties of the variable like data type, its shape. So this is how you can create and check the properties of a variable. Now in TensorFlow, to update the value of the variable, you need to call the assign method on the variable with a new value that you want to update. So for example, create a new variable like a new var and type tf dot variable and give a value like a 4.0. Create this variable by executing the cell. Now print the value of the variable new var dot numpy. Execute the cell. So you can see the current value of the variable is a 4. To update the value of this variable, you can type like this new dot var and then call the assign method on this variable dot assign, and then to this method pass the new value that you want to update. So here I want to give a new value 8.0 and now execute this. So as you can see here, it shows the new value of the variable new var is 8.0. Let's check it using a numpy method. So type here new var dot numpy and execute this cell. So as you can see, the value of the new var variable is updated from 4 to 8. This is how you can update the variable value in a TensorFlow to a new variable value. So this is all about how you can create and check the properties of variable like a shape, data type, and also you can manually assign this property. And this is how you can use the assign method to update the value of variable. So at last I want to say, don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel, and thank you.